Why would you be doing something that is so awful for kids on this vaccine issue? I know it's been your life work, but you promised that you'd do differently when you came for your confirmation hearing.
Senator, we, under my leadership, handled the measles outbreak better than any country in the world.
I appreciate that you say today that you support people getting vaccine. Is that accurate?
Yes.
There was a lot of misinformation predating
Tell me
this.
a piece of information that I ever promoted about vaccines. Tell me one piece of information. Tell me one piece of it. You say you have a whole list there. Read me one thing I've ever said.
Mr. Secretary, if you want to run for the United States Senate and get on the dais here, you're happy to do it. You should resign from the HHS today and run for office. And you can be in here, you can ask anyone all the questions you want.
Today's Senate hearings are also putting Kennedy face-to-face with Senator and physician Bill Cassidy, whose vote was critical to getting him confirmed, but who has recently criticized vaccine decisions made by the secretary. Finance Committee member Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico joins us now. Senator, it's good to see you. So it's been fascinating to follow all of these hearings, 6 so far, a 7th coming. We've seen a lot of heated exchanges, a lot of skepticism, a lot of criticism. My question is, to what end? Will these hearings change anything?
Well, Chris, today, several of us asked for this secretary to turn over documents that this secretary has been hiding. I think it's one cover-up after another. And at least to the secretary's credit today, he said he'd turn over documents that I asked for by Friday. Let's see if he does it. If not, it's going to take a subpoena to get the information or a request for public records. But we need to get this information so that we can know the truth as to what the secretary is doing and not doing, because people across the country are dying under this secretary's leadership.
Yeah, and you don't have to have an MD to understand what's going on. But by the time the hearings end today, the secretary Kennedy will have faced questions from 4 Republican senators who are doctors. And I want to play some of the exchanges he had with 2 of them today.
Are you taking steps now to ensure vaccine guidance is clear, evidence-based, and trustworthy, and what those steps would be?
Absolutely. That's what we're doing.
Knowing that we've already done good work, what are we doing prospectively to attempt to address the continued threat and perhaps reality of fraud in the marketplace?
I mean, we're using now AI throughout the department to detect fraud.
So I want to note that Senator Cassidy chairs the committee that Secretary Kennedy will appear before this afternoon. Are you getting any indications in the conversations you're having with Republicans that they've had it with Secretary Kennedy, that they're talking to the White House? Or again, at least on that side, is it more of the same?
Well, Chris, report after report suggests that President Trump and the White House had to take Secretary Kennedy into the shed and let him have it because of all the nonsense and all the lies that this secretary has been spreading around vaccinations, to the extent that this has been included in reports. And yesterday, when one of my colleagues in the U.S. House of Representatives asked him if that was the case, he just said no. But there's no question that what Secretary Kennedy is saying about vaccines today is completely different than what he was saying just days ago or months ago. He's lying about this stuff. There's no question to me that Secretary Kennedy lied to my Republican Senate colleagues, not just during this confirmation, but in the days leading up to today's hearing as well. And people need to hold this guy to account. When I asked Secretary Kennedy about the plan that he had to reduce the number of measles cases in America and to make sure that we were going to improve MMR vaccination rates in the country, he just started to mumble and make nonsense as well, as opposed to just committing to getting the plan to the American people. All we want is the truth. All my constituents want is the truth, and they just want an HHS secretary that cares about their well-being, as opposed to lying and spreading more misinformation that's discouraging people to get the care that they need.
I agree with you on all the reporting that suggests that there has been frustration in the White House. Donald Trump doesn't like bad publicity, and no doubt Secretary Kennedy has caused a lot of bad publicity. But then there's this from the Washington Post today. They report that the CDC blocked the publication of a report that actually showed COVID vaccines cut down the likelihood of ER visits and hospitalizations by about half this past winter. That's according to 3 people familiar with the decision who spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear of retaliation. So Is that an indication to you that maybe they're not as concerned as some of the reports might suggest? Or what's your takeaway from that they're not going to release that report?
Well, look, when Secretary Kennedy says in one vein that he believes that there was support to the American people under President Trump with COVID, and then he's hiding the documents suggesting that these vaccinations actually did help reduce the number of hospital visits across the country, someone has to ask why. Yesterday, when one of my colleagues in the House, Dr. Raul Ruiz, an emergency room physician, medical doctor, asked if this Secretary Kennedy, would take the recommendations of the nomination that's Donald Trump's nominee to be the director of CDC to make things better, Secretary Kennedy refused to say that he would even entertain those recommendations. So again, many unanswered questions, and that's why so many of us are asking questions to be responded to in writing from this secretary and to get those documents to the committee immediately so that we can share them with the American people.
I also want to ask you about Kash Patel. He has now responded, as you know, to a report from The Atlantic that he alarmed colleagues with his excessive drinking and unexplained absences. Here's what he said yesterday at a press conference with Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche.
I can say unequivocally that I never listen to the fake news mafia. And as when they get louder, it just means I'm doing my job. I've never been intoxicated on the job, and that is why we filed a $250 million defamation lawsuit. And any one of you that wants to participate, bring it on. I'll see you in court. I will serve in this administration as long as the president and the attorney general want me to do so.
So do you think that, I don't know, Democrats will get to the bottom of this? The administration will get to the bottom of that?
Well, I think, Chris, the telling part of that little exchange from Kash Patel is the last 4 or 5 words that he said, that he'll stay there as long as President Trump wants him. I'm certain President Trump will be firing him soon, because there's a question if this guy even shows up to work, if he's at the job. There's one whistleblower after another now that's coming forward that's talking about that. And Kash Patel is not the only one that's not going to work and following the president's executive orders, in addition to questions about his behavior in other areas. So, look, President Trump, continue to fire the people that you thought would do work for the American people. Kash Patel is probably next on the list.
Senator Ben Ray Lujan, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good to be with you.